So more than auditioning, I basically, we're a bit of jam. There's so much work in the industry,
Hmm.
and there are so many actors, and the ones you want are busy doing web shows or movies. And then there is a lot of talent you see. You want to like get new faces also, but there is always that thing that they don't have maybe sometimes personality, or maybe they're too young or early in the day to play something as vivacious as an Nagin. You know how it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was a process wherein we went through a lot of phases. I mean, it'll be a little immodest for me to say I auditioned 55 faces and rejected 55 faces, but there was that spark that we wanted and we couldn't find it till we found Tejas. Honestly, I was very sure I'll get trolled. Like, very sure. Like, there is not even one moment I thought, okay, I'm not going to get trolled. Actually, a friend of mine had given me this idea,
Uh-huh.
and she had told me that we don't in India pick up, make fiction stories on real life incidences well. Okay,
Hmm.
and like I mean, for example, a Titanic came out of a real incident,
Yeah.
and while the pandemic is probably something that everyone will do, and the Netflixes of the world and the Amazons will do these large billion-dollar shows, this is such a big. We're a part. We are witnessing history, and we've all changed in the last 2 years, and Nagin had to change. I mean, I made one during the pandemic and I felt that I had lost the there was something, like, I personally felt maybe this time also it'll be the same, but I definitely knew that there was something I felt which was new in the first Nagin, which was missing when I was writing a lot of the stuff later. And I thought maybe it's not just me, the world has changed so much, and to deal with a pandemic in a space wherein the Nagin takes a revenge on, this was something that I remember, I still remember everyone's face when I read it, and they said, this is terribly ridiculous, but it can really work or go really bad. And I honestly felt that this is the time for me to do something with Nagin that shakes the basics of that show, Otherwise, it's always personal revenge. Eight people she sees comes, kills. How many times can she do that?
Sure.
And with pandemic affecting everyone's life, there's a serious amount of relatability. I'm trying to deal with it with a lot of empathy also, I mean,
Yeah.
we have all faced a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
If we can in some way reflect some of that trauma in the show, it's been problematic. People have had, the rich have become richer, the poor have become poorer, and it's nobody's fault. Pharmaceuticals took off, restaurants had to suffer. It just took the whole world order and changed it. So we thought it's time to deal with it in our own way. Of course, it'll be very entertaining, but there won't be, I'm trying to yet look at it with a little bit of empathy. I do not want to lose that, because I know that the amount of relatability I've had with my staff now. I never used to spend time talking to them, but in the last 2 years, we all were stuck in the same house. We got to know each other better, and
Wow.
like there's so much that changed in us. I'm happy. I don't know about. I mean, everyone will have to eventually see her in the show. I wanted someone this time very um, vivacious but innocent, because there's Mehak also in the show,
Yeah.
and while the Shesh Nagin is going to be a big twist in the show, but the the character that we wanted Tejaswini to play was somebody who was like a reluctant hero, So
Last two
anything
seasons
that
of Mac.
works next sequel is a pressure. I mean, that's like the given thing in life, You make something, people love it, and then there's so much melancholy and love attached to it that every time you do it, that's why they were. I mean, the whole agenda of making another sequel of anything, be it Broken, be it Nagin, be it anything, is that you are ready to see, oh, that was far better. That's like a part of it. That's the pressure you automatically, it's like the given pressure that you do when you get into the show. But yes, there was a relatability that we felt with this. And I mean, I could have made a really sad show, but why should I? Honestly, why should I only deal with trauma in a sad way? I mean, that's really like limiting. You can deal with trauma in with empathy. You don't have to make it sad and tragic. I mean, I feel it's far more relatable to be empathetic than make it like, I mean, it's far more sensitive. But and also the fact that I wanted to at this time change Nagin. I mean, I didn't want to sit here and say that I'm doing the same thing. And like I said, I knew I'm going to get trashed. I knew there's going to be
Yeah.
mad of people turning around and telling me, "What? Are you crazy?" I mean, of course, I'm not calling the virus corona in the show, but you can, of course, find the relatability there.
Right.
And I'm like, people are going to say, oh, how insensitive. Like, of course, if an American app does the same thing, it's going to be great. But if we do it, we're really insensitive. But at whatever level we wanted to do this, we were like very aware of this. And like I said, there's going to be that midpoint where we can go this way or that way. But I'd want it no other way. I cannot not take a risk. I cannot be playing safe anymore.
Right.
I'm too
Right.
old. I think I'm too old for that, you know. So it's just not that. I think it's also with the fact that we also do not realize that we only communicate with people living in urban areas of cities, which is not really all of India.
Right.
And there becomes the lack of voice of probably of majority of the country that is actually silenced, but the numbers will come because someone is watching, you know. If they're not watching it, how do the numbers come? It's been made in southern languages, dubbed and done superbly well there also.
Right.
So, and I think Indian folklore has not been adopted that much. We definitely need to get better with our special effects, but we also need to get better with our budgets for that, which is so. I actually think that we are still at that stage where we are very controlled with our budgets, and I can understand that because finally it is an advertising medium and it is not television has a certain format to it because of which the content cost cannot go up. And just as basics, we rely a lot more on our writing, on our twists and turns than on special effects, and that's a fact of life. You know, it's
Yeah.
just the way it is, and we have to see to it that somewhere we support the effects. We even in fact planned that that many seconds would be allowed in this episode and stuff like that. But I think that's also the fun, and because it's challenging to make like sci-fi or supernatural or
Absolutely.
Indian fiction with with a tinge of. But that's the fun of it. At least we've created shape-shifting snakes in India. We will send you 4 5 articles where this all came from, wherein people have done this. There's a lot of migration in small towns, and it happens all the time. I mean, right, regressive, not regressive, that you see the show and decide. But if you go to see a lot of men, they are married and then they migrate to cities for jobs, and they have separate wives here, separate lives here. So there is of course the drama around it, but it's not something that is not happening, you know.
Okay.
Even for migrant workers, so many of them, or people have these marriages they do. I have a friend and I don't want to take his name. He has been married, and he's like he's got a wife in the village, and I'm like, how can you live like that? And he's like living like a single guy in Bombay. So there are people who are doing these things all the time, and they live their lives with this because there's pressure, there is so much of uh, expectation, and I think there is a certain amount of social fracture that creates the duality in our lives, you know. We have different
Right.
lives, we have families and different lives alone, and this is just, I mean, there is a lot of mirroring of society in this show. So it's a double-edged sword, you know. You're competing with your own past. How do you do that? You know, it's like terribly. The dichotomy is killing at times, you know. And this third season did honestly as well as the first two. So
Yeah.
Surbi and Anita worked very well, like Ada and Moni. So in fact, better if you go to see the numbers.
Hmm.
But you know, and then there will be subsequent seasons different as well. There's so much that changes around that doesn't really reflect only on the show. Sometimes people pick up non-fiction and then you just come at the time and then non-fiction is peaking. Sometimes the weekend has changed so much in homes because, you know, so there's so many other factors, and then of course that pressure also comes on the show. Luckily for us, weekend has not got high numbers on any platform now, so
Yeah.
we don't have additional pressure that, oh, I have to do the same four I did earlier. It's not
Hmm.
possible for a weekend because you don't build that stickiness that you build through the week. You know, every day you're coming, so your stickiness is far more than just coming back every weekend. And I think now we are all aware of that. When Nagin came, a weekend clicked, and I don't want to take that pressure that it should happen every time. You know. But yes, at one point, I do know that a lot of people love the show. As a I mean, I call myself that, so I mean, you guys can do whatever. But as a creative or a person who's created the show, I feel I get bored at times. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Nagin and I'm like, the format is repetitive. Why am I doing it? I mean, just to make money. So I do want to break that format. I want to do it differently. I mean, I feel like when you have a world or a country that has changed so much, Nagin has to change. I mean, she can't be doing the same thing, and this time she won't. So I saw Tejaswini in the show,
Yeah.
and we spoke to her manager, and we signed
Okay.
her a manager who told us, assured us that she will be on. There was no, and before this also we had seen her, but on the show I just liked her so much. I mean, I don't see too much of Big Boss honestly, but like
Okay.
a lot of my friends, like the clippings are all over Instagram, and you watch
Yeah.
it. And I think she's a very, very attractive young girl.
Hmm.
There's something in her eyes, and I just cast. I mean, honestly, I have never met her except for in the show, and then when I gave her a narration now. You know,
Yeah.
I knew she was going to win when she won my evil eye, and it went from Rakesh to Karan to her. So I just knew she's
Yeah.
going to win because I felt that that was some kind of luck that went to her. But more than that, I have done nothing. Like, I do not think I even have the power to sit and tell a channel, "Ki, I want this one to
Yeah.
win because again, like really, why
Mm-hmm.
would I? Like, nothing. I don't know the girl. She was pretty. She clearly had a lot of love from the audience. Like, I connected to her when I saw her, and that's all that I think made her win. Poor girl, for her to like constantly have to like defend herself. मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं, मेरे अभी मेकिंग 6 सीजन कहीं ना कहीं एक प्रेशर थोड़ा कम है बिकॉज 4 और 5 नहीं चले, इतने नहीं चले. आई मीन, इफ यू सी वीकेंड नंबर्स, दे आर स्टिल मच हायर देन अ लॉट ऑफ अदर शोज. बट वीकेंड नहीं चलने की वजह से, आई मीन, नागिन 4 and 5 नॉट गेटिंग द नंबर्स ऑफ 1 and 2 and 3 की वजह से अब मुझे 6 पे तो कोई प्रेशर है ही नहीं एक्चुअली. अगर आप देख, if it like, it's okay, if it'll probably do as much, and then from there I'm ground zero, I can go up. So I didn't take that extra pressure on me. I said now I can actually do what I want because I don't have any precedence. Ki last season was such a big hit that इस बार तो इससे भी बड़ा होना पड़ेगा. So actually it worked for me. Secondly, मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं, मेरे मेरे फ्रेंड ने जब मुझे एक कॉन्सेप्ट सुनाया, and she told me you should do this. There is no way. Corona is not about a disease, it is a mind changing thing. And you are no longer dealing with relatable topics in this country if you don't deal with something that we all have gone through. I was actually feeling like ये तो मुझे गालियां पड़ने वाली है, बिकॉज अगर कोई really celebrated maker करता, there would be enough attached to their. But if I'm doing it in Nagin, which is an out and out mass commercial pulp show, there will be always, and I'm okay with that because I'm not calling it Corona, but I want to deal with what people went through in the last 2 years on this show. And I don't even have कि मेरे पास कोई सुपर हिट लास्ट सीजन है कि मैं अब इस शो को totally, in fact it just worked for me कि अब all all chips in. No, but it is got that migrating to wives wala angle which was there then. But that time TV was very open, very city based, and now television is very mass.